Hello again, folks. KR King here, helping you homebrew your own D&D campaign. So today I am going to draw a treasure map using some of the concepts that I covered in the last two videos as part of my series on creating treasure maps. In the first video, I talked about, the different kinds of treasure that might be hidden or lost, and some of the questions that you want to ask yourself about, who hid the treasure and why. Then in the last video, I created a storyline based upon that template that I had created in the first. So now I'm going to take that story and I'm going to draw this treasure map. An important thing to remember is the person who created a treasure map is not usually a cartographer, and the purpose of the map is not some general map that anyone can use. It's very specific. The idea is to jog their memory so that when they go back to get the treasure, they won't be like, oh my God, where did we bury it? We've lost the treasure. So it combines traditional geographic landmarks, but it also has prose. It also has directions on which way to turn and what to look for. All sorts of things that are going to be specific to the person that created the map, the person that buried the treasure. Now I'm going to use Wonderdraft software to create this map. I've used it before in some other videos, and I like to have the full screen effect when I'm demonstrating Wonderdraft. So we're going to dive into the computer to create our treasure map. All right, this is the Wonderdraft software. This is the mapping software that I use for my large-scale, continents and land masses. I really like it because it's $30 and it's a one-time charge. It isn't a subscription fee, and they update it pretty regularly. So when I'm going to create this treasure map, I'm going to think about, this is the continent that I have created. I created this as a sample continent. Melanor is this frontier continent, this newly discovered land, so that it's settled along the coasts generally. The interior is largely unknown. Obviously, I know what it is because I created it, and I did all sorts of classic, the dark forest, the huge, desert, which is separated, it's kind of rain shadow with these mountains of teeth. I have this other forest here, hills, all sorts of different things. But of course, the players don't know this. They know their general area. So I always have another map that I give the players at the beginning of a campaign based on what the general knowledge, because maps are very valuable. I have an exploration. That's why I use the hex structure. So let me just show you what the players would know. And that's going to be a map that is, these are all the settlements along the coast that generally growing up, the road system, you have a general idea. But notice the symbols and the terrain types that are on my map are not here. Why? Because you need to go explore that. And this is valuable. People that do adventures that go explore that, the main people just stay right in these hexes along the towns. They don't go anywhere. Okay. Having this map, notice down here I've got this little hamlet of Barth. And this is going to be my connection to the treasure map. I'm going to have this mentioned so that once the players figure it out, because half the battle is figuring out that it's been pasted in this book, the story of, the treasure discovery by Salazin, this is going to be my connection. So if I go back to my continent map, what you will see is originally in the story in his book, he said that the secret to the sea cave location is between Mount Graven and Crystal Falls. This is where people search. But in fact, it was page 129 and 130. And the actual location is here. And at one time, these ruined the city. Anholt, this was the kingdom that, came and fell. They were trying to... This is part of the reason that they fell. They had this great treasure. This Barth was much larger. There was a secret meeting going on here, and they were traveling here, and they were waylaid here. This is where the sea caves are in this hex. Now, this is another interesting thing. I'm going to create a detailed map of this, and this is going to show you these are 6 mile hexes, and the reason I use that is in 5e. They've decided that the movement rate is 24 miles per day, just walking through terrain. Obviously, difficult terrain and whatnot makes it harder to do that. Now, whether or not that's realistic, 24 miles, if you've ever tried to walk that, that's a hell of a walk. Much less if you're exploring or if you're cautious about being encountered. That's what they say in the thing. We're going to have a suspension of disbelief. We're going to use the 24 miles per day. All right, so now I'm going to create a detail map, zooming up on this and subdividing this. Instead of this 6 mile per hex, I'm going to make this a half mile per hex. which is going to give the players, when they begin to explore this peninsula, lots more information. They're going to be moving a half mile at a time and more, opportunities for encounters, but again, it gives you that detail. What's interesting about this, creating a detail map is it shows you how much information is in a hex, is in a 6 mile area that we kind of forget about. That's a vast area. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So what you do is you go up here to menu, you create detail map, and it asks you how much you're going to zoom. Now, I've played with this a little bit. In terms of the map that I'm going to make for the players, which potentially could be printed on an 8x11 piece of paper, I'm going to say 3 times the size. I'm going to select the area, and I'm going to create sort of like that, okay? And I say create. Okay, so now I have this map right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the overlay here. Notice it's at 512. What is, divide that by 3. Now I have basically the same hex structure that I had on the original map. I'm going to save that as detail map. Okay, so now I have this saved. Then I'm going to create a new map, the 8x11. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this as a PNG file, and I'm going to say 2 times. I've played with this before. I think you get better detail with a 2 times setting. You may play with it and find something else. I will call that detail map. It's going to be ping, right? PNG file. Then I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to say, US letter, okay, landscape, all right. My theme, and I always go to adventure, I'm just going to go to paper because I'm going to actually not put colors on this initial map just because I'm printing this off. People may not have print maps. Again, if you're sending this electronically, there's all sorts of things you can do, but just for examples, I'm going to say that Salazin drew this with the paper map idea. He wasn't trying to make, he's not a cartographer, he's not a map maker. But again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. So now I'm going to bring in my overlay, which is going to be my detail map. And there it is. I'm going to scale that up. How big do I want that? 3 times. I'm going to move this over to the corner. It's still centered. And actually, I wonder if I can get this. Let me just see, 4 times. Is that going to be too big? Let's put it like there. Because what I need is I need information over here for my legend. I'm just going to try this at 4, see if this works. A little bit of a test here. We go to our overlay. We have our hexes. Remember, we want these to be the equivalent of half-mile hexes. That means in a 6-mile hex, each of these across would be 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's almost there. 128. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's a little too 115. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, it's so close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There you have your half-mile hex. Okay, our overlay. Now I've got this basic setup here, right? And I'm going to recreate this peninsula, and now I've got this more detail. Now, another question is, as I said, Salazin, who's making this the story of your treasure, he's not a cartographer. So you may be tempted to create land, that is, he just kind of goes in here, and it's all just kind of crude, like so. And maybe a little more detail here, right? And if we turn the overlay off, you got that kind of. And that's, perfectly legitimate. Why do I say that? Well, because with With Wonderdraft, you have this feature down here, which is this raised landmass. And what that gives you, depending on your roughness, is a very much of a more fractal coastline, right? Which is more realistic in terms of how coasts really are. And you can get very intense with this, right? And I've done this on some of my own maps just because I love to make maps. But the question is, would this be the way that someone, not a cartographer, doesn't have the technology of cartography, would draw it? Probably not. So I'm going to take the roughness down off this and smooth this out. But I am going to create it a little more along the lines just because I think it looks so much better than this smooth down here, right? And so I'm just going to kind of go in here. And I'm going to recreate that. All the way around. And you may want to look at your overlay while you're doing this. See how close you're coming to this, right? There we go. That goes in, so if you go to remove, you come in like this. Make that bigger. Just like that. How much this is. Again, that just gives it a little bit more of that irregularity. Remove in here. Again, he's not a cartographer. Maybe he would make major mistakes in this map. You can choose to do that. For this example, I'm just going to say that Salazin got lucky, you know, and generally speaking, his map goes to the accuracy. Okay. And I don't know. All right. So now I've got this map pretty much set up. I'm going to save. Notice up here tabula rasa, that means it hasn't been saved. So we will say detailed treasure map. Okay. All right. So now we have, if we go to our overlay, notice when I made this, you've got just 4 trees, symbols, some mountain symbols. This is going to be much more detailed, right? So, and I'm making this as a map to find the treasure. So I'm going to say, right off the bat, I'm just going to put a symbol here. Let's see. And right here is our treasure, let's just say, and a sea cave here. So you've got to get from out here, across these mountains, across here to here. And you're going to be identifying this. And what other details? I don't want to have just these 4 trees. I want to make this peninsula more interesting, right? So what I'm going to do then, let's change this maybe well, that's probably okay. All right, so I'm going to go to my mountains for this right away. And I'm just going to create these mountains just as they are on the original map. And Wonderdraft, when you start to just click these, it kind of cycles through and gives you, the scale is the same, but it gives you some different mountains. All right, there we go. That's pretty much what you had on your original. If you go like this, and you take this down, now you've got your mountains across here. Now, the first thing that you're going to do, one of the first things you're going to do is you're going to have an identifier over here, how far this is, remember, to that hamlet of, the hamlet of Barth, such that the players can identify where this peninsula is in terms of what they know. But right now they have to go through here somehow to get, and again, they're getting to here eventually. What I'm thinking is I'm going to have a waterfall. So if I go to, let's see, what do I got here? I think I've got some waterfall symbols. And I'll just boom like that. Okay, so there you've got a waterfall. So you're going to have some water coming out of here, and maybe just going to there. And that water, it's kind of interesting. Fresh water, I don't know why it's picking that color. Okay, maybe brighter than that. There we go. All right. Okay. So this is going to be, they're going to see this waterfall, and they're going to know this is where you want to start, and there's a pass. And maybe I'll put, you know, a lake up in here somewhere like so. A little bigger, maybe. So let's show. Let's see. I don't like that. Maybe I need to just make a lake, draw a lake in here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. There you go. So they're told to go and follow this. You don't have to, again, they're just going to be following along this river through here to this lake. Okay, and then once they get to the lake, the map's going to tell them to follow this cliff line. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the old rift valley or gorge where you have one area that's much higher than another. So I'm going to go symbols. And I have these cliffs that I found, and I'm going to go over how do you find these custom assets and how to put them into Wonderdraft in another video. But for now, I'm going to create this Rift Valley. Let's see here. Why don't we have it like sort of like this? And we can do some other ones here too. Is that a good one? It's too big, I think. There we go. And maybe, yeah, a little bit like that. And like that. And that is, I'm going to get rid of, I want this to be, yeah, I'm going to get rid of that. And maybe that one, I don't know. Okay, so now I have this Rift Valley going across here. And I'm going to make this hills as well. It's kind of cool, kind of a mesa thing. When you have a symbol and you press your space key, you can rotate that with the mouse wheel, which is kind of nice. So we'll put that like so. And maybe like that. Okay. Again, he's drawing this in his hovel. Let's see what this is. All right. So this is going to divide, and I'm going to put something that's much lower in here. I'm going to put a jungle in there. Now, let's see. What have I got? I've actually got, these are some ones that I actually created, and I'm going to show you. I took some clip art and made these, and I'll show you how to do that in another video here coming up. Which one do I want? Maybe a combination of these. Like so. And he saw this going across this to us. They would see this jungle, and they say, do not go in there. They've heard terrible beasts in there or whatnot, right? And you may, as we go into the actual running of this, you may have, like that. Let's see, is that, yeah, stick with these. All right. So there you have a jungle. And he tells the players, don't go in there unless you absolutely have to. You stay along this ridgeline to here. Okay, so we've got, you're going to go up along here. Oops. And you're going to come to this. Now, what's going to identify where this sea cave is? And do we have a symbol somewhere that could represent? Oh, looky there. There is our sea cave. Okay? And, of course, you want to move that around. However you want to do that. But that's the sea cave. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little bit of land out here. This is half Mile Hex. So, you know, a mile off to the, you know, direct southwest is a, let's say, you know, a point like so. All right, and so, that's very obvious. But again, they picked this sea cave with this so that they could find it again. That's the idea behind this. All right, so what's going to be up here? What I'm thinking is that this area is higher up, and they didn't go across here because there's something about it. There's geological activity here, right? Something that's forcing them not to go there, but they're warning you away. And so what I might do is, how far, because this you can see all the way. This is a couple miles, but you're up high. You're not going to be able to see as far up. So maybe I'll put some, how big do these get? I'll stick with, let's see here, maybe some scrub trees or something in here. Just whatever he saw from that distance, right? But this geological activity, how do I represent that? I think what I'll do is I'll paint it white. Okay. This is this mist. I don't want to miss that. And you can't see into the mist, and maybe you could put, let's look at our symbols. Oops, we want all. Let's see here. Anything like, oh, you know what? That might be cool. Instead of, yeah, let's do that. Let's have this all dead with the mist. I like it. All right. Sorry, gang. Sorry. I'm going to get rid of these and put in our dead trees. I like that better. So back to this. Yeah, we'll just put some dead trees in here. So this, and then this, what the hell? We'll just go like this. This is how far they could see. And then I'll just paint this white in here. And again, these trees were all, at one time had been forest. And that's about as far as he can see in there. All right, I think actually what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to fill this all in with this white, the smoke that he talked about. And we'll put some more of those trees in there. Where are those dead trees? Right there. And even though he doesn't really know what's there per se, Salazin just, says it's a land of smoke and deadly. And on all of this stuff, we're going to have a legend that's going to explain the route to the treasure cave, the sea cave. But in the book, he's going to have details of like creatures in the swamp. They heard, strange things or saw things flying around. Here, the mist and smoke, they, smelled sulfur and whatnot, just to give the players the flavor of that. You don't have to write everything down, but, just you can fill in their details if they have questions. All right, so now I'm going to create the legend of my map. That's the information on it that tells me about the different areas, identifies what's actually on the map. But I'm going to take this hex thing off for the players. But before I do that, I want to make my scale. I want to use the hex to make my scale. So if I go to this overlay and I say create, and I move this down like so, and it shows me now, I know that these are half mile hexes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's not correct, right? What you do is, so let's say you have 6 segments, right? You delete that, and then you create with 6. Always goes to the center. You're still, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 3 miles, right? Because it's a half mile. 1, 2, 3. So I just say 3, like so. So if I look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Half mile hexes is 3 miles, okay? And you can make that, much bigger. But you can't change the width and height of this because it's very dependent on this. So depending on how, 56, let's say, something like that. Again, you can change this font to anything you want, right? whatever is most identifiable to you. Probably the same font you want to use. Yeah, that's confusing. Let's just say that. All right, but that size, you can't, these you can change, but this you can't. So now I have this on here. I don't necessarily need the hexes anymore. So I can turn this off because this is how this is going to appear to the players, right? So now we have our labels. And I have areas of interest, which are, so what is our, we'll say black font, and I'll just do outline of white to start with. Really white. Okay. And I got Lancelot. I'll go back to what I had before down here, and I'll just start like this. I'll say 1. Let's look at this. And that 1 is that really easily identified? Let's take this and make it 128. Just, whoops. 1. Is that really identifiable as a 1? You know, I suppose if I have the other numbers 2, so they're all yeah, what the heck. 2 is going to be this. 1 will be here. Let's say 3 is going to be here. 4 is here. 5 here. 6 is here. And 7 is our treasure. And these are going to be the identifiers, and you can put as many or more. I'm just doing this for this example. All right, so next we're going to fill in the details on these such that the players can make their way to the sea cave and find this. And that means we're going to have to identify. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this. You know, I've said 1, 2, 3, 4. You can put your text right here and basically say, you know, begin at waterfall. And we're going to have some information about this waterfall. But see, already, then you can make this smaller if you want. 56, let's say. When you print this off, how's it going to look? You know, the problem is when you start to go up in here, it gets kind of messy, I think. So I think I'm going to not do that. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to have, and that's why I left this room up here, I'm going to start here. So I'm going to say 1, begin at waterfall of, I don't know, Keltar. That's the leader of the gang, the original leader, and he discovered it, I guess. So we'll say this. We'll come up here and we'll say, which is 25 miles southwest of Bartholomew's Keep. Okay. Why am I saying that? Because let's save this. And I'm going to, okay. Well, still busy. Okay, I'm going to open up my continent map. If we look, the hamlet of Barth is 25 miles. The players will discover that at one time there was a keep here long ago, Bartholomew's, and then this fell apart, fell away, and all that's left is this little hamlet. That'll give them the information to get there. Okay, so let's open up our treasure map again. Okay, and depending on labels, you know, 100. Let's see here. Maybe that's good. All right. 2 is going to be, I'm going to start this over here. 2, follow river to Azure Lake. And I'm going to say, watch for giants. Because I am going to put up here. Let's see if I can do that. All right, because I'm going to put some giants in here. So now we've got 3. Maybe I will move these around. Because once you go go directly head through pass northeast to ridgeline. Stay along cliffs. There we go. And why does that look bigger? Oh, because those are 100. Why? Oops. 100. Okay, this one I'm going to delete. 100. Okay. 100. 100. All right. Curious. Now 4. Avoid avoid jungle. Terrible beasts. And we will have some, the jungle, I always like to put in dinosaurs. I don't know why, but it's just from my old days. We'll see if I actually do that when I build this out. 5 is going to be the land of smoke and fire. And I'm not going to say anything more about it than that. Oops, I got to add 5. Okay. Six will be Dagger Rock. And then Treasure Cave, 1/2 mile northeast of Dagger Rock. There we go. Now you say, oh shoot, I don't like that, because you can do this. Start another. Okay. That was control. I just deleted that. And then like that, sort of. Right? Just to avoid there. Maybe a little farther down. All right. Now, there's going to be more information here as we go through. That in the book itself. But this is going to be our map. This should give you enough. If you start here and you go along here. Now, the players are they see the scale. They see this north of where this is. They're going to see this Dagger Rock out here and know to look for this cave that's in here. Okay? All right. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create the sea cave using Dungeon Draft. All right, so there you have a treasure map which gives the players enough geographic clues to find the peninsula, then move safely across it, and find the sea caves where the treasure has been buried. So in the next video, I'm going to create a sea cave map using Dungeon Draft, But I'm also going to talk about how you want to make this journey across the peninsula. Even though they have this map that tells them how to get there, there's going to be twists and turns. 150 years have gone by. Things have changed in terms of, what's on this peninsula, the geography, the climate change or whatever has happened, so that it's an adventure. That's the goal here. It's not just, oh, I've got the map, it's all easy. But until then, if you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel. I'm always looking for more. Leave some comments. I love to read them and to answer them. But of course, most importantly, keep playing D&D and tell somebody else about it.